Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We're going to be taking a deep dive into how AI is being used in recruitment.
Yes.
Not just the kind of, the stuff we always hear about, like AI scanning resumes for keywords and things,
Right.
but how AI can actually start to understand the more human aspects of a candidate,
Yeah.
their personality, how they interact with people, their emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence. Yeah, it's so important.
So we're going to be looking at a fascinating article called Using AI in Recruitment, How Emotion AI Drives Better Hiring Outcomes.
Okay, great.
And we really want to get into how these emotion AI tools work,
Yeah.
what they're actually measuring, how they're trying to provide more objective assessments, and whether they can actually, lead to less biased, fairer hiring decisions.
Right.
So when we talk about emotion AI in recruitment, what does that actually look like for you?
Well, emotion AI, also called effective AI, it basically tries to interpret human emotions. And it takes all these different signals, right? So it looks at facial expressions on video.
Okay.
It listens to the cues in people's voices.
Right.
Analyzes, transcripts, the words people choose, and even other nonverbal things.
So it's really like having this incredibly perceptive observer who can kind of pinpoint all these little nuances
Yes, exactly.
that maybe even a seasoned recruiter might miss.
Yes, definitely.
Could you give me maybe like a really specific example of how this technology works during, say, a job interview?
Sure. So let's imagine you're interviewing a candidate
Okay.
and you ask them a tough question.
Uh-huh.
Now, with emotion recognition software, you might be able to see slight signs of stress.
Right.
Maybe a little tension in their jaw, a subtle change in their voice that we might not consciously pick up on.
Right.
But the AI can flag that.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then you, as the interviewer, can maybe adjust your approach, rephrase the question, to put the candidate more at ease.
To kind of even the playing field a little bit,
Yeah, exactly.
acknowledge that nervousness. Now, what about positive emotions?
Sure.
How does the AI interpret, say, genuine enthusiasm from a candidate or, real confidence?
Well, it can pick up on those too.
Okay.
So let's say a candidate's eyes light up when they talk about a specific part of the job. Or maybe there's this upward inflection in their voice
Right.
when they're describing their achievements.
Okay.
The AI can actually detect these as signs of real enthusiasm or genuine confidence.
I see. So it's not just looking for negative cues.
No, not at all.
It's trying to get a full picture of their emotional range.
Yeah. You can even pick up on the specific language they use, if they're truly passionate about their career goals.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about analyzing one candidate in isolation, right?
Right.
You can use this data to actually look for trends across lots of candidates.
Absolutely. So for example, let's say you notice that a particular interview question consistently triggers negative responses. It might mean that the question is poorly phrased.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe even biased in some way.
I see. So you can actually refine your entire recruitment process based on this feedback.
Exactly, yeah. Make it more effective and more fair.
Now, the article mentions something called multimodal emotion recognition.
Yes.
What exactly is that? It sounds very complex.
It is. So multimodal emotion recognition basically combines a bunch of AI technologies.
Okay.
It uses machine learning algorithms. It uses computer vision, to analyze the visual data.
Right.
And it uses natural language processing to understand both what's spoken and what's written.
So it's looking at everything together.
Yes, exactly.
Not just one piece of the puzzle.
It's like putting together a multidimensional picture.
Right. So it can analyze a candidate's performance during an interview across these three different dimensions.
Exactly. So you have video analysis, audio analysis, and transcript or text analysis.
Okay, let's break those down a little bit. What's happening in each one of those?
Sure. So video analysis looks at facial expressions, body language,
Okay.
and even these micro emotions, which are these tiny, almost undetectable facial movements.
Wow, micro emotions. I've never heard of that.
They can reveal a lot about a person's underlying feelings.
Oh, that's interesting. And what about audio analysis?
Audio analysis focuses on the voice,
Okay.
the tone, the pitch, the pace. All of these things carry emotional weight.
Right.
And then finally, transcript and text analysis looks at the actual words they're using, the structure of their sentences, to understand things like sentiment and confidence.
So you're basically saying it's not just about what they're saying, but how they're saying it.
Exactly. And the goal here is to get a really objective assessment of the candidate's emotional state.
Okay. So how does it actually try to achieve that objectivity? What's it looking for?
Well, one of the key things it analyzes is emotional consistency.
Okay.
So it looks for inconsistencies between what a candidate is saying and how they're expressing it.
Oh, I see.
For example, are they saying they're excited about the job, but their face and voice are flat?
Right. That would be a red flag.
Exactly. It also looks at engagement levels.
Okay.
So how present and interested the candidate seems, regardless of their background or appearance.
So it's trying to look beyond those superficial factors.
Right. And then it can also provide personality insights.
Personality insights. How does it do that?
Well, it uses these psychological models like the Big Five, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Right. The ocean model.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So by analyzing their verbal and nonverbal cues, the AI can actually generate a personality profile.
Wow. So it's like getting a personality assessment built into the interview process.
It is, in a way.
Now, the article also mentions this thing called an emotion graph. What is that?
Well, an emotion graph is like a visual representation of the candidate's emotions throughout the interview.
Wow.
So it shows the emotional intensity, whether the sentiment is positive or negative, and it highlights key moments where there were big emotional shifts.
So you can actually see like the emotional ups and downs of the interview.
Yes, exactly.
That's fascinating. And how does it actually measure the emotions?
Well, it looks at the intensity of 8 core emotions.
8. Okay, what are they?
They are anger, contempt, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, surprise, and neutral.
Wow, so it's a pretty comprehensive range.
It is. And by analyzing those, along with the valence arousal model, how positive or negative and how energizing or calming the emotion is, it can understand more complex states like stress, enthusiasm, and confidence.
That's amazing. And then the article goes on to analyze a mock interview using Imentiv AI.
Yes.
What were some of the key observations there?
Well, the AI identified a moment where the candidate displayed these happy emotions,
Okay.
and it gave a valence score of 0.72, which is positive,
Right.
and an intensity score of 0.77.
So that was like a specific moment of positive feeling.
Yes. But interestingly, the overall tone of the interview was quite neutral.
Oh, okay.
In fact, the dominant emotion for the entire mock interview video was neutral, with a score of 39.24.
And what did the psychologists make of that?
Well, they said that this neutrality probably created a more professional atmosphere.
I see. And is that a good thing?
Well, it can be. The thinking is that a neutral emotional state can help minimize bias.
Oh, okay.
It allows both the interviewer and the candidate to focus on the qualifications and the fit.
Right. So it's less about personal feeling.
Exactly. And it aligns with cognitive appraisal theory.
Cognitive appraisal theory. What's that?
Well, it suggests that our emotions are influenced by how we interpret events.
Okay.
So a calm, structured interview setting can encourage more logical responses.
I see. It reduces the emotional noise.
Exactly.
Now, the AI also provided some personality insights about the candidate in the mock interview.
Yes, it did.
It specifically highlighted openness.
Yeah.
What were the clues that led to that observation?
Well, the candidate expressed a willingness to learn new things, to apply her skills in different contexts.
Oh, okay.
She showed adaptability and a real curiosity.
Right.
And these are all characteristics of openness.
I see.
Interestingly, the panel's behavior also indicated openness.
Really?
Yes, they were very welcoming, offered her water, introduced themselves warmly.
So it's looking at the interaction from both sides.
Exactly. And this actually ties in with Carl Rogers' humanistic theory, which emphasizes empathy and genuine communication.
Right.
And there's this great quote from Peter Drucker that the article mentions.
Right.
He said, "The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said."
Oh, that's a good one. So it's about reading between the lines, picking up on those subtle cues.
Exactly.
Now, the article then goes on to talk about some interesting psychological theories that are at play in an interview.
Right.
Let's start with social exchange theory. How does that apply here?
Well, social exchange theory suggests that people are always trying to maximize their rewards and minimize their costs in social interactions.
Okay.
So in an interview, the candidate is offering their skills and experience
Right.
in exchange for the potential benefits of the job.
Salary, the career growth, all of that.
Exactly. And the panel is evaluating whether the candidate's offer meets their needs.
So it's a two-way street.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so. And there's this example in the mock interview where the candidate asks about weekend work.
Right. I remember that.
That's a perfect illustration of social exchange theory. She's trying to understand the demands of the role and how they might impact her personal life.
So she's weighing the costs and benefits.
Exactly.
What about self-presentation theory? How does that come into play?
Well, self-presentation theory is the idea that we try to control how we present ourselves to others
Okay.
to make a good impression. So in the mock interview, the candidate tells a story about dealing with a difficult customer, highlighting her problem-solving skills and emotional regulation.
So she's strategically choosing what to reveal about herself.
She is. And when she struggles to remember a team-related example, she quickly redirects the conversation.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's all about managing those perceptions.
So it's a bit of a performance in a way.
It is, but within a professional context.
And the article also mentions cognitive load theory. What's the connection there?
Well, cognitive load theory is all about how much mental effort it takes to do something.
Okay,
And job interviews can be very demanding.
definitely.
You know, you're trying to remember things, articulate your thoughts, and you're nervous.
Right, it's a lot to process.
So the candidate in the mock interview hesitates when trying to recall specific examples.
Yeah,
That's likely due to cognitive overload.
I see.
But the panel's structured questions actually help to reduce that cognitive load.
Oh, how so?
Well, they provide a clear framework for her responses,
Okay.
making it easier for her to access and share the relevant information.
So the structure of the interview can actually make a big difference.
It can, and that leads us to behavioral interviewing techniques,
Right.
which is all about using structured questions to assess past behavior.
And why is that important?
Well, the idea is that past behavior is the best predictor of future performance.
Okay, that makes sense.
So by asking everyone the same questions, you can get a more consistent and fair evaluation.
Right, it's about focusing on those observable actions rather than making assumptions.
Exactly. And the example of the candidate handling the difficult customer, that really illustrates this.
Right.
It shows her problem-solving skills, her emotional regulation, which are key aspects of emotional intelligence theory.
And her question about weekend work also showed self-awareness and a consideration for work-life balance.
Yes, absolutely. And the article also points out that the panel's clear communication about the next steps, that aligns with organizational justice principles.
Right.
It's all about transparency and fairness.
So this one mock interview really highlights all the different ways that emotion AI can be used.
It does.
But the article also talks about analyzing video resumes.
Yes, that's another fascinating application.
So how does that work?
Well, with Imentiv AI, recruiters can upload a bunch of video resumes,
Okay.
and the AI can analyze them for things like sentiment, dominant emotions, and engagement levels.
So it's a way to quickly screen a large pool of candidates.
Exactly, without having to watch every single video.
And can you give me an example of what this kind of analysis might reveal?
Sure. So there's this example of a candidate applying for a receptionist position at Knightsbridge.
Okay.
And the AI noticed that while she did show happy emotions at times, her overall dominant emotion was neutral.
Interesting.
It scored 40.71 for neutral and 30.92 for happiness.
So she was mostly presenting a neutral demeanor.
Yes, and she had experience in the beauty industry, including front desk roles,
Right.
and her video conveyed professionalism, passion, and gratitude.
So even though it was neutral, it was still positive.
Yes, definitely.
And what did the psychologist say about this particular video resume?
Well, they said that the neutral tone probably indicated good emotional regulation
Okay.
and a controlled presentation style, which are desirable traits for a receptionist.
Right. You want someone who's calm and collected.
Yeah, exactly. And they also pointed out her agreeableness, her enthusiasm for working with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that suggests she might be good at pro-social behavior, positive interactions.
Which is essential for a customer-facing role.
Exactly.
So it seems like these video resumes can reveal a lot about a candidate's personality and their suitability for a role.
They can.
What other psychological principles were identified in this scenario?
Well, there's impression management, where the candidate is consciously or unconsciously trying to make a good impression.
Right.
That ties back to self-presentation theory.
Yes.
There's also reciprocity in communication, where her expressions of gratitude show her ability to build rapport. And then there's expectancy value theory, which suggests she's choosing a neutral tone because she understands the professional expectations.
So even in a short video, there's a lot going on beneath the surface.
There is.
What were the key takeaways from the emotion AI analysis of this video resume?
Well, the analysis highlighted her emotional stability, her authenticity, her trustworthiness, her potential for teamwork, and her composure.
Wow, that's a lot of information from a short video.
It is. And that's the power of emotion AI. It can provide these deep insights that you wouldn't get from a traditional resume.
It's really changing the way we think about candidate assessment.
It is. And by using these tools, recruiters can make more informed hiring decisions.
So it's not about replacing human judgment.
No, not at all.
It's about augmenting it, giving you more data to work with.
Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredibly fascinating deep dive into the world of emotion AI in recruitment.
It has.
We've seen how it can analyze everything from facial expressions to word choice.
And it's just the beginning.
Right. So here's a final thought for our listeners to consider. As emotion AI becomes more sophisticated, how will our understanding of authenticity in the workplace evolve?
That's a great question.
It's something to really think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.